This week I'm having a chat with Hannah Goldberg from the popular TikTok profile of Hannah Sailing. Hannah was brought up between Holland and the United States and began sailing at a young age at summer camps. After spending time in Los Angeles with family, working multiple jobs and seeing little left after the bills had gone out to save up for a cruising boat, she decided to sack off the routine and begin travelling full-time by sailboat, picking up deliveries here and there, as well as some extended trips and ocean passages with fellow cruisers. In the process, Hannah has clocked up some pretty impressive miles in a really short space of time and has taken on some tough passages, as well as setting up a social media platform that is inspiring younger generations of nomads to take up sailing as a means of travel in the world. Hannah is now about to embark on her latest passage to date on a true 50-foot blue water cruising boat leaving from Mexico, heading to French Polynesia. If you want to follow Hannah on social media, check out her TikTok and Instagram at Hannah Sailing. If you want to support the podcast and view the full video versions of each episode, visit the Ocean Cruisers Patreon site and follow us on Instagram and Facebook to keep up to date with the guests, as well as tuning in to watch some of our own experiences as we start to get our boat ready to start our circumnavigation. My wife Hibba will be documenting some of our travels, and I'll be sharing footage of the refit of our boat, which is a Jeanneau 54 DS.
I'm currently in Los Angeles, California. It's where I grew up. I was visiting my family for the holidays, and I had just before getting back here, I was basically not in LA or in California for 2 years, about 2 years. I've just been crewing on boats, and I just did the Atlantic crossing in May, June, and July of 2022. And then I was in Europe for a while, traveled around there for a bit, and then I went to the Annapolis Boat Show and met up with a bunch of the other cruisers, and that was in Maryland. And then I went to do another job, which was in French Guiana, and we sailed to Grenada. That was like a 6-day sail. And then directly from there, I went to Croatia, which is where I did a conference. I spoke at a conference, and then from Croatia, that was in November, and then I stayed with my family in the Netherlands and then flew back for like 2 weeks and then flew back to LA right before Christmas. So I've been here since about Christmas time. And now I'm going to Mexico next for another crew position, and to just get away from the city, kind of.
You go everywhere. Right, okay.
Yeah.
Where are you actually from? You got family in the Netherlands?
Yeah. So my mom grew up in the Netherlands, and she moved to the States when she was about in her 20s, like early 20s. And she knew my father. He's American. Then they kind of reconnected here in Los Angeles. They both are in the film industry. They really, that's what they were pursuing like their whole life. And so then they got together, and my mom has still lived here for, I guess, like 30 years or something like that. And
right.
And I'm a dual citizen as well. So, and I speak Dutch. But I grew up in LA.
That, I cannot imagine any place in the world that must be such a contrast to like the serene, isolation of like cruising on the ocean and crossing the Atlantic, for example, and then living in Los Angeles. Like that is a pretty stark contrast.
Yeah. It's like, I've never really felt like I belonged in Los Angeles. I never really felt like it was my place. So whenever I'm back here, I always immediately like want to leave again. I actually I just visited a friend in Hawaii for New Year's because she invited me to stay at her place. The flight was really cheap. I don't know, being in the city for some reason, it just like, I need to be near the sea.
Anxiety.
Yeah, it gives me anxiety. It gives me like, I just feel this feeling and that I just need to leave right away. And I thought that it would be nice to I actually planned on staying here. Like when I came home from the holidays, I was planning on staying here for like 3 months. I was like, okay, it's been 2 years since I just stood still in one place, and I'm down to just hang out, work, make some money, chill for a few months, but immediately I want to like leave again. And Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you've obviously spent like the last 2 years traveling around, going to like beautiful places, different cultures, new people, interesting stuff. And then to go to a city which is like so notorious for just being fake, quite frankly. Like I lived in Dubai for like 8 years, and it's quite similar, I imagine. Quite not the film industry aspect of it, but like the type of people to a certain extent. So yeah. So what do you do for a job? You said you were thinking about going back there and working for a few months.
Yeah. So I do I do a lot of different kind of stuff. I do social media management and like video editing for freelance, like for different clients. And I do copywriting. But while I'm here, I've been actually working on a few video shoots and like film sets. Like I was a PA and an extra. I just kind of find any random jobs I can. And I'm staying at my family's house for like a couple weeks. They have a guest room. So I've been just staying here for like, I guess now it's been like a month. And being able to not pay rent and then go and like do some work as well. Because I just, growing up here, I've known people. So yeah, I've known people. And people are you back? Are you free to do this? Are you free to do this job? And it's just like good way to make a little bit of money, but I'm able to also work as I go, like on the road. And I make a little bit also just like from social media and that kind of stuff as well. Here and there.
I'll tell you what, it's worth just talking about the social media side of it, because I suppose that's how a lot of people who sail and spend time on Instagram or TikTok, probably more in your case. How did that start? Because you've got a lot of people watching you on TikTok.
Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of random. Well, like I said, I'm a social media manager. I was doing that in LA before I left. I lived in Los Angeles in an apartment with my boyfriend and a dog and like totally kind of settled life, which I never really wanted at all. He had known about my like dreams of buying a boat and sailing around the world, but it was like the timing was never right. I was working as a social media manager here in LA at an office, like 9 to 5 type of job. And then once I quit that job and I decided to like move out of my apartment and sell my car, sell my, everything that I had that was kind of like weighing me down, and to start really pursuing my dreams and goals, I just stitched together a video with footage I had on my phone. And I had been quite familiar with TikTok because of my job. And it is a lot different than Instagram and YouTube in the sense that it's short form content and it's very genuine. There's communities are incredible there. It's not like fake. Like, I just don't feel like it's so curated and like so superficial. It just feels extremely genuine. And I saw real people changing their life. And like, they were inspiring me because it was just real people just telling their stories. And so I just decided that I'm going to make a video about what I did because, maybe some people will relate to it or like not let that fear like control it. So I made a video, totally random, posted it, and it got like 30 million views, just popped off. Everyone was like going fucking crazy, which I didn't even understand. I'm like, this is just like, I don't even know why this video.
What was the video of? How did it get 30 million views? What were you doing?
It was me. I said, it started with a shot of me at my lowest point of my life. And I was like, basically I was like, oh, this is me 2 months ago at the lowest point of my life, like right after I went through a terrible breakup, right before I decided to change my life. And then the next part of the video is me moving out, working out, like selling my stuff, and then hopping on a boat and saying, okay, this is the start of the journey. It was right when I got on that boat and I was like, this is the start. So if you want to
it's very motivational.
Come along with me, it's just my transformation, like watch me change my life kind of video. So people, people kind of connected with it, I guess. And yeah.
That's amazing. That's so cool. But TikTok, it's like my wife uses it. I downloaded it once and then I was getting so many notifications on my phone. I was like, okay, I'm deleting this straight away. And my wife uses it and some of the stuff she shows me is awesome. Do you know, like niche community stuff or like educational stuff. There's a couple of like science things that she shows me, which are really cool. And then sometimes she'll be scrolling through. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, this isn't for the world to see. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes. But yeah, so it's like a pretty large sailing community on that platform.
When I started 2 years ago, there was like not one person. And the thing is, when I was starting my sailing journey, I had seen I had done my research about how people are doing this, and it takes a lot of, people are always asking me, how do you do this? How do you do this? But like, I went out and I went and tried to figure it out myself. And I just looked on YouTube and I was seeing like so many cruisers making YouTube channels and making a living, funding themselves off of their YouTube. And then I was seeing that there was like hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels. And I'm like thinking, how can you even make an impact? I don't even have a boat, I'm just like me just trying to go. So I mean, I'm like, how am I going to make my impact in this space of YouTube? It's completely oversaturated with sailors. So I went on TikTok and I looked up sailing channels and I literally couldn't find one. There was not one. So I said, oh, this is my space. Like, no one on TikTok knows about sailing. And it was like a totally new thing, because it's a much younger community than the people who are watching YouTube. So it's
probably like most communities are younger than the people that are watching YouTube sailing.
It's a different demographic. So all the people who watch those YouTube sailors, like all of the people who follow me on TikTok, they don't know Delos and liveaboard and Parlay or all the big ones. They don't know at all, like, because it's just a totally different demographic and different people. But I knew them, and I knew and I was familiar with the YouTube stuff. And so I feel like I'm kind of in that like middle ground where I'm not, I'm not like, so it's just a lot of teens. And then now 2 years later, or I guess it's been like a year and a half, there's a lot more sailors on TikTok. Lots of, and now Delos is on there and liveaboard and I met, and then there's like some other just random people, but I've met my best friend, Max, who's the channel of Untied, through TikTok. So we were the only two people really doing it on TikTok. Yeah. Back then.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's just going to be so hard to keep up, because there is a new one that comes out like every couple of years, and then everyone like goes crazy over the new one. But I think we're maxed out now. Like, Instagram is photos and videos a little bit, kind of. TikTok is the short stuff. But everybody I speak to who's into like tech or social media, they're all like shorts, reels, TikTok-ish type of stuff is like the absolute future. Yeah,
definitely. And Instagram is pushing it more now. That's where,
and YouTube actually, YouTube just monetized shorts.
Yeah, they're doing shorts. They're really trying to get people to do the shorts there. I mean, that's what how they're consuming content right now. I'm guilty of it. It's how I like to consume it. And that's why I'm like, the thing is, people have this, when it comes to change and in this industry and this, it's the most rapid, quickly moving industry like in the world. It's constantly changing. You have to keep up with it. And the thing is, we can be resistant to change, and we can be resistant to how things are changing by not wanting to accept it and saying TikTok, oh, I don't want to be part of TikTok because we have all these ideas, but the thing is that you can be resistant to it, or you can be welcoming, open and accepting and like go move with the times, it's just the ways that things are progressing. And I told people in like clients who I work with is to take away your ideas of what you think TikTok is, because people think TikTok's some dancing app, or people have this idea of what it is, but it's not.
That's what you see most of it.
You think, that's what the thing is that people like, a lot of people don't understand it, and that those unknown things make them resistant to joining or to change or whatever. But you have to understand it to perform well, to be honest, because it's just so much. There's, like you said, there's communities. It's so much different than just dancing. Like, I've never done a TikTok dance. I never plan to do a TikTok dance because it's just not my brand. It wouldn't resonate with my followers. Like, it wouldn't make any sense for me to do one, because I'm not a dancer. I'm a sailor, and that's what my videos are about. So
yeah. I remember the first time I started hearing what TikTok was like way back. This is a couple of years back. I think we were I was actually walking around the marina, and there was like a bunch of teenagers just like dancing, looking at a wall. And I said to my wife, I was like, what the hell are these people doing? And she was like, oh, they're probably doing a TikTok. And it wasn't great dancing. Like, they're not like in the Moscow Ballet or something. Do you know what I mean? It was like pretty strange stuff. I was like, okay, fine. But yeah, I mean, for getting a message out and for like, showcasing a talent or, a skill, being part of a community. Yeah. Like, it's amazing. And like, so millions of people are watching those videos that you're doing, and that is going to be inspiring and motivating millions of people. So shit, that's a net positive.
Yeah, definitely. I want to be able to make it seem like more attainable, or just kind of showing like an alternative lifestyle to what you think that you traditionally need to do. And for me, I was always resistant to that like traditional lifestyle. And I thought, well, I'm not when I was seeing other people on TikTok traveling full time or living like in a way that was different, I thought, oh, why can't I do that? And then the fact that I was able to do it and it just makes it, I think, even more, it just gives more encouragement to people who maybe are just like too scared to take that kind of next step of really pursuing like what you truly want. And you can try it, and then maybe it doesn't work out. You can always go back. Like, you can always get a job. And that's where what I was thinking when I like first started doing this like lifestyle, is like, I can always go back to my life in LA, and I can get a job, and I can get an apartment, or I can go back and live somewhere else. And I can get a job. Like, I know that I won't, I will do any job. Like, I worked in the service industry for so long, and I've worked on like the mountain, and I've worked in like so many different fields where I just know that like, oh, if the sailing thing doesn't work out, I loved it. I had so much fun, and then I can go back. But I'll never be in this position again where I'll be able to like really pursue my dreams. And so I just like full force go into that, suspending the fear. And that's what I think a lot of my followers, a lot of people struggle with when it comes to, starting something like that.
I think like people have, because I presume you're in like your early 20s, mid 20s, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mid 20s.
Yeah. I think like what is quite inspiring about a lot of the younger people now is they're able to see how nice it is to like not live a traditional life. Whereas I think people from like my generation, and definitely like between me and my parents' generation, the focus was very much on go to school, go to university, get a professional job, or, get a job working with your hands, get something stable, government pension, where, I mean, those things are probably going to be toast in like 20 years anyway. But yeah, I do see a lot more people in their like 20s. Yeah, I'd say 20s, not really early 30s. But just being more open-minded to like, go traveling. Like when I was younger, it was a very strange thing. There's some people did it in uni, but they just wanted to go to Thailand to get cheap drugs. They didn't really want to explore and, see new cultures. Whereas like now, and maybe it's thanks to apps like Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that are just showcasing more. You don't have to Google what is it like to travel. It will just pop up in your face and you can see it.
Totally.
So,
and it's like, it's like a difference between, traveling and like taking a vacation, where people are always like, how do you afford that? How do you do that? And it's like, I don't pay rent. I don't pay, like, all these crazy bills that I did when I lived in Los Angeles. Like, and when I went on a trip, I would be spending money, but like when you're traveling, it's just different. You're living, you have a certain amount for housing, and then you're living similar. Like I buy foods where I cook for myself at hostels, and we cook on the boats, like, and a lot of the times for certain boat jobs, either I'm paid or everything is paid for depending on what, the position is. So it's like traveling is just so much different than vacations or, and so that's, I think a lot of also what people are spreading online is that you don't need to be rich to travel. Like you don't, and it's different than just going to some resort and enjoying your vacation for a couple weeks. For that type of trip, I could literally live for months, like on the road. And that's just a different when you're experiencing cultures and experiencing places that are kind of off the beaten path, not really those big tourist destinations. And then slow travel, just like taking your time. And especially that's big with sailing. And
yeah, it's all about that.
yeah.
When did you get the bug for this? Like, oh, so you grew up in LA. What do you know, your desire to travel and sail places and, you know, meet new people, see new cultures, is that something that you just think was always in the back of your mind? Or do you think it was growing up in such a busy city that, you know, pushed you away from it? How do you think you moved into that?
Well, when I was younger, I was like, we would go to Holland, to the Netherlands every year. And I was obsessed with the sailboats, like these big tall ships. One year we went to like this carnival where I saw all the big tall ships. We got to go in them and I was like, what? And then I was like 8 years old. I met other sailors and people who, were living on their boats, and they're like, this is my boat. I'm like, this is your boat. Like, you can own a boat and like live on it. And then I remember that was just like such a vivid memory in my mind. And then my grandparents had a little sailboat, tiny little sailboat, didn't have like, you know, it didn't have a cabin or anything, but it was, and we would just take it in the lake. And those were my favorite memories of all time, like being on the boat. I wanted to go on the boat every single day. I wanted to be on the water. And they put me in sailing camp one year. That was my first time really sailing.
Oh, wow.
I was like 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old.
That existed when I was a kid.
It was in Holland.
That's in the Netherlands, yeah?
In the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So it was like it's a small community. My grandparents live in a farmer's village. It's like this really small little village, but there's like a big lake, and there's a little, I guess you would call it marina. I don't know. I mean, they have a lot of boats that people rent. Like it's like the culture in the Netherlands is boats. Like the entire country is connected by canals, and people used to travel around the entire country just through the canals, and you still can. Like, this is the way that it's just the lifestyle. So that's where I was introduced to it, and where I fell in love with like life on the water. But then I never really did it in LA. But when I was in uni I was in Northern California. I was kind of near the sea as well. I'm just always have been wanting near the sea, near water. And I was like just dreaming every day. I went to college, I went to uni because my parents and my grandmother mostly was very insistent I go, even though I actually told her I wanted to travel and go just take some time to see what I really want to do. I always knew that I wanted to do sailing, and I was watching a lot of like some of those YouTube channels on like just on my couch, 17 years old, like in my dorm, literally dreaming of sailing around the world. Like it has always been my dream. And so, but it just kind of like, I just never felt like I had enough money. I couldn't buy a boat. I can't do it alone. No one I had two major relationships. Like they all both in the beginning, they were like, that's so cool, I want to do that too. But then it kind of went into like, that's not possible. We can't do that. Like, who would do that, you know, and thinking I'm crazy. I'm like, I can do it by myself and I don't need a boat. And yeah, that's when I kind of decided to just like go for it. But
if you're in a relationship with someone who thinks your dreams are crazy, then it's probably not the right one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I think they thought that it was just like some kind of like, oh, how fun would it be to like sail around the world? Like they didn't know I was actually serious about it.
Like, oh shit, she means it. Okay.
Oh wait, she's real. Oh, yeah, she really wants to do that. That's crazy.
Yeah. So what brought you to that moment where you decided to, because obviously like you're in a relationship, you had an apartment, you were working, you were earning cash, you're in a decent city. You know, what brought you to that actual moment where you just made that first move to be like, right, I'm done, I'm going, like, this is what's happening?
Well, I moved after I graduated uni, I moved back to LA. I've worked like multiple different jobs. I was just trying to find what I want to do. I was like broke. I still wanted to get a boat. That was still in my head, but I had no way of doing that. I moved back in with my parents. I found a job, started working. It was far away from my house. I ended up getting an apartment closer to my job, like near the beach. Got a great deal. So I was just kind of like in it. I had a roommate. I was just working really hard. And then I ended up leaving that job and I went to work as a server because I wanted to make tips. I wanted to make more money because I was like, you know what? I don't want to be in this. I was in the construction interior design industry. And I was like, I don't want to do this. My boss seemed miserable. I'm like, this is not the corporate world I want to be in. So just kind of figuring out what I wanted. But I knew I wanted to boat. And so I went to the job because I remember my first day there too. Like, oh, why'd you get this job? I'm like, I'm saving for a boat. That was literally like always my goal. So I went and at that waitress job, and then that's where I met my ex-boyfriend. And I basically just like fell super madly in love. Like it was just, you know, I thought like, this is it, you know? And so we kind of just got more settled. I wasn't going to leave. And then the pandemic hit, we ended up moving in together. It was just like so much craziness. So, but then our relationship just like started getting really hard. And it was like, there was like lying and just like a lot of things that I couldn't put up with anymore. And I thought, oh, I can make it work. I always wanted to make it work. I didn't want to give up on someone I love. And I was always like, oh, you know, he has trauma and these kinds of things, and we can like get through it together. But basically it just got to the point of like, you can't move that we couldn't move past. And I just hit like this rock bottom of, you know, it seems like your life is so great, but I was barely able to make it by with like a really great job in Beverly Hills, an affordable apartment in LA. I was literally working to live, and I hated it. And it was like, every single bit of money that I would make, none of it was being saved for my boat, like none of it. And I was like, I had to pay. And then all of a sudden he had a dog. So I was paying like medical bills for his dog if random shit happened. And then, I mean, like there was just, I don't want to, but my life became like, you know, every bill, then I bought a nicer car insurance, and then car payments, and then Wi-Fi and electricity and like literally I had a list of like 15 different bills I was paying every month, and my paycheck. And then after groceries and rent, my paycheck, the amount that I was able to save per month was so little. It was insane. And I thought, what the fuck am I doing? This is going to be the rest of my life. I had a huge blow up breakup with my boyfriend. And then that's when and it was like a rock bottom, terrible point. And that's when I was like, fuck all of this, left it all. Just like, I think the rock bottom, hitting rock bottom, life, you know, it is.
It's
and like, it's not for me.
I've so many friends who like have always lived and worked in London, and I just never understood it. I'm like, you can't stay there because you can't afford a house there. It costs like £1 million, you know, for a house that's average. You spend so much on getting like the tube and taxis and stuff like that. Beer is like, you know, $10. I just don't get it. I've never been for it at all. On the relationship thing, like, you know, I think until you get to the point where you're married to somebody and like they're ready to marry you, you have to be selfish. Because you really need to figure out what that person's about. And you can only find out if someone's suitable for you by literally just being yourself, just focusing on yourself and see if it works. Like, can they be themselves and you be yourself, and you can just do your own thing. No one's dependent on the other person, and it just works. But you have to be selfish to get to that point and figure it out. Yeah, definitely. I think like my whole life I was taking care of other people, and I felt like it would be so selfish to pursue my own dreams, like, and leave the other. But then I realized it's actually not selfish, because once you're doing what's best for yourself, then you're able to like give better to other people, you know, and the people that you love and stuff. And I think I was just like in relationships, and then also taking care, like thinking so much about my family and my little brother who's 13 years younger than me, and I like helped raise him, and I even never wanted to leave him, and I was always thinking about other people. And then I was like, no, I just want to do what I want to do and see if it makes me happy, because I just never felt like I was. And I think that you're right. When it comes to finding a partner right now at this point in my life, I've like found my boundaries and found what I want and how to like love myself. And then it's just important to like know yourself better if you want to find that person that you'll be with forever. But the thing is, it's like, it's not really a rush. It's just as life goes. But yeah. It's a lesson learned that generally comes with age and a couple of divorces. Like it's easy to sit here and say, "Oh, this is what like relationships are like." It's like I've been divorced, I've been remarried. Everyone figures it out the hard way. Yeah.
Right.
So, do you? So, can you actually like earn money from the social media stuff that you do, and that funds your travel, or is it more like you get paid for the gigs that you do on the water, and that is what keeps you going?
It's both. I mean, the water, like the stuff that I get paid for, like jobs from sailing stuff, no, like that's not enough to keep me going at all. Like I didn't get paid for like a few of the jobs, and which is like fine because I'm not paying rent, I'm not like paying expenses and stuff. But I make money from the social media stuff and then my freelance work while I'm sailing. I was sailing for like 9 months on this boat Elixir with the channel Untied. We became like best friends, just like a group of young sailors from the UK. Like Max rebuilt this boat. You should talk to him. He's great. But he rebuilt this boat in the UK. So now he's sailing around the world. We were together on the boat for 9 months. And he also does social media and freelance work. So, you go for a passage for 5-6 days tops during that time. And so I'm away for land for that long. But the thing is, when you're close to land, it's not really so hard to find a place where you can have Wi-Fi to do some of the work. And some of the work that we do, you don't need Wi-Fi, but yeah, so it's really just it's a lot. It's a mixture: freelance, copywriting, video editing, social media. There's different ways to make money through TikTok, and so yeah, I've made some money, and everything that I've been doing has completely sustained and funded my travels. And I'm not like making a ton of money. I'm not like, I'm not making a ton of money, but I'm also not digging into my savings. Like it's kind of just staying level,
but it's
for
funding
the past
the life
2 years.
You want, so
yeah,
that's all you need.
Yeah, totally.
There's no point having a massive savings account if you're miserable.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, and so hopefully this next year I'm trying to monetize better my social media and take it more seriously, because at first it was just fun, like, oh, I'm just sharing for fun, and it still is. Once it's not fun, I'm not going to do it. I just did it because it's like a little bit like passion project, and I just like it. But now at this point, I've heard and I've learned that there is definitely some good ways that I can monetize it, but it also comes with me like moral controversies of promoting. I don't want to promote brands or promote things that are unethical or not sustainable, and that's like a big thing on my mind always, which is I definitely could have made a lot more money at this point if I took any of the things that have reached out to me, but I've denied like 90% of what comes my way to promote because it doesn't align with my morals. So that's kind of been a struggle point for me when it comes to making money online, because my number one concern with the work I do is obviously like protecting the ocean and the environment. So, telling people to go buy this product or, do this and do things that I would not even do that are harmful to in some ways, it's just not what I want to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're going to go to, the thing is, like when you do social media, and it's similar to what I do with the podcast as well, because I've just started working with a couple of sponsors that I will do this year. Like I made a decision, like if it's a company that I think is good, they're making something great, and the people who listen would be interested to buy it, and it's related to the topic, which is sailing, then that's what I'm cool with. I'm not really like an environmental activist or anything, so I don't really have that moral responsibility, to be honest, although I'm generally quite a good steward of the environment. I imagine it's a lot harder being in your position because like most companies aren't that sustainable. But yeah, I think if it's something that works for you personally and you can buy into, and then the people who listen are going to be interested, not like oh, I'm Hannah and I'm promoting, and it's like, why are you promoting that? Do you know what I mean? That's so strange.
No, it's obviously like I mean, I buy things, like, it's not like I'm not, against buying anything. But if I'm going to promote something, I'm going to make sure that it's something that I would buy. And I would say, you should definitely buy this too. And there's a lot of options there. It's just, so yeah, it's just finding the right ones and like aligning with, because like it's an important kind of partnership.
Yeah. I imagine, especially with TikTok, because there's definitely a younger crowd on there who are, they do have a genuine interest for protecting the planet more than, people in the 50s and the 60s do. There's got to be a lot of products now that you could like really, really integrate into like the lifestyle that you're promoting on TikTok. Like there's so many environmentally friendly cleaning products, soaps, makeup. There was a really cool one that I saw the other day on Instagram. It's just a company that is selling water in aluminium bottles rather than plastic bottles, and they're not that expensive. Which is obviously, better for the environment, and, you're not using single-use plastics and all that type of stuff. So I imagine there'd be like a lot of options there. So, all right, you've got a tattoo of an anchor on your arm, which I noticed. And I said, oi, look at my tattoo of an anchor on my arm as well. So why don't you talk about some of these mega miles that you've been clocking up since you started your traveling? Because you've been to quite a few places already.
Yeah. There's a lot. So I started, I've sailed in California, from like Santa Barbara down to Los Angeles. And then I've sailed from Puerto Rico to St. Thomas, and then like St. John and St. Martin. Then I've sailed from Grenada to Curacao. And that was with Untied. Curacao to Colombia, down the coast of Colombia to Cartagena. We were in Santa Marta for like a few months. It was amazing. And then from Cartagena, we sailed to like the Rosarios, like Isla Grande, Isla Rosario. And then from there, we sailed to Bocas del Toro in Panama, stayed there for a couple months, did some surfing, lots of good time. And then to the San Blas Islands, Gunayala region, in Panama, right before going through the Panama Canal. Went through the Panama Canal, transited that. That was insanely cool. It's something I always wanted to do. So that was, it was really wonderful. We were like this tiny boat, because usually you're rafted up, but we were actually in the last lock by ourselves, a 37-foot boat with this like giant tanker behind us. So that was crazy.
It was pretty intimidating. I've never done it, but it looks pretty intimidating.
No, it's insane. It is. I mean, it's easier than you would expect, but it is intimidating for sure, because there's a lot of pressure, and you've heard horror stories, but then after transiting the canal, that was like the whole, my trip with Untied, is that we agreed to go sail to Colombia and then Panama Canal. And so after that, I actually got an offer to do the transatlantic crossing and delivery of a boat from Antigua to the UK. So I sailed from Antigua to the Azores to A Coruña, Spain, and then from Spain to the UK, Cornwall.
Nice.
And then, it was really, really beautiful. I loved it. Then I traveled around Europe for a little bit. I actually went to my grandmother's 80th birthday party in the Netherlands. So I took a train from the UK to the Netherlands, which was cool. And then
which you could do as well. Most Americans probably don't imagine you could do that on a train.
No, I did it when I was younger, which I thought was so cool. But and then I like the tunnel and all that. So I did that. It was like pretty reasonably priced. Stayed in the Netherlands for a little bit, and then I did a road trip actually down to Portugal, to like Spain and Portugal with a friend. And then after that is when I went to the Annapolis Boat Show, and then I went and I helped a friend he lives on his family's boat, and then they left the boat to go do some like business kind of stuff, but he needed to move it from French Guiana to Grenada. So I took a flight to Suriname, had to get to French Guiana, and then we sailed 6 days to Grenada, it's so funny because like the waves over there, the swell, and there was like so many squalls and so much swell. It was like the entire Atlantic crossing in like 6 days. It was insane. I didn't like when I was in the North Atlantic, and the swell in like the Bay of Biscay in the North Atlantic, it was like pretty big, especially from the Azores to Spain. But then being in sailing in South America from French Guiana to Grenada, the swell was like super similar, and the squalls were much more intense. It was a really, really interesting, intense kind of passage. So that was actually the last passage I've done, which was 2 months ago. And then cool. I did the conference in Croatia and then flew right back to LA. But now now I have a really big crossing coming up next month, which is going to be,
what's that?
Doing the Pacific crossing. So
good on you. Yeah. Nice. Where are you going from and to?
From Mexico to French Polynesia, which is I'm really excited about.
Jealous.
Yeah,
they're very jealous. That's like, I'd love to cruise that side of Mexico. I know. The thing is, I would just love to go straight to French Polynesia.
Oh my God. I know. The thing is, after the Atlantic crossing, I thought to myself, I had some, a terrible skipper, which happens a lot, but he got kicked out of the Azores because he lied about having a visa. He was South African, lied about having a visa. He used all the diesel. He didn't really know much about sailing. It's insane. I made a video about it. So, if anyone wants to listen to that, then that's the full story there. But basically, after that crossing,
well, go on, give us the craziest thing that happened on this passage. I love hearing stories about dickhead skippers. So
I mean, he was just a drunk. He was an alcoholic. He got blackout drunk in the middle of the Atlantic. Yeah, he didn't know actually anything about sailing. He didn't know yeah. It was insane. And I had said one of my main things is I don't, especially on something like that, is I don't want to be part of if I, he was I didn't really know him. I knew the owner of the boat. He was also with us during the crossing. I mean, he's amazing. And I knew him, and he accidentally hired this guy, not knowing, based off his CV, not knowing that he was going to be who he was. So yeah, he got he burned, we had so much diesel, insane amount of diesel. We had boat, the entire tank was full, and then there was jerry cans strapped down all over the boat. He managed to use up all of it, even when I was expressing my concerns of not sailing when there was wind and just using the engine. It was really concerning. We ended up running out of fuel during the crossing before we reached the Azores. Had to, when the first time that we actually did lose wind, we were becalmed, the only time that we would have needed to fucking turn the engine on, he had this idea that the engine would go faster than sailing, even though with the engine we're going 4 knots, but we're going directly to your waypoint, sure. Or you could go 8 knots sailing and then tack 1 time, and then you're not directly going in the right towards that waypoint, but it doesn't mean that it's gonna take any less time. I did calculate, it was just really, and he was just also really uncomfortable to be around. I had to set boundaries that I never thought I would have to set, ever, because I also brought a crew member who I had met online, a follower, who I got to know, and she came with me. And the thing is, I felt responsible for her as well. I didn't know this guy was going to be, a total fucking creep. But anyway, when we got to the Azores, they were told him that you're not allowed to be here in this country. You don't have a visa. It ended up he lied about having a visa. So they told us that we might have to, they were really upset, the officials. They were you cannot leave the boat, to him. They're you cannot leave the marina. You cannot leave the boat. He was just pissed drunk every second. It was so annoying to be just reliving being around him. Is just pisses me off, because he was a
delivery skipper as well. That's so bad.
Yeah, it was really bad. And then the officials were basically came and told us that because he had a visa for the UK, and they were you're gonna have to go directly to the UK, and we're we can't do that, the boat's not ready. Basically, then I told them, I was we don't feel safe, we can't sail with him, please just let him fly out. He has a flight, let him leave from here. He's gonna go directly to South Africa from the Azores. So they let him leave on a flight. And then we didn't have to. Then we got to sail to Spain and not go directly to the UK, which would have been like so a charter for us at that, with how the wind was and how the weather was at that
could
point.
have been tough.
Yeah. And it would have and then it would have been another couple of weeks with this guy who's unhinged, crazy. Like we could not do it. It was a lot. So yeah, that's the story with that.
Wow. Some drunk, unhinged creep. Yeah, that sounds pretty bad. Yeah, the EU are quite strict when it comes to visas, like for the Schengen zone and stuff. You can't just turn up and be like, oh yeah, it's cool, I've got a visa. Like they can check and they will check. And then you'll get booted out.
It's crazy that he said, oh yeah, I'm good, I have it. Like, why would you lie about that? Like they're not going to find out. I just don't even get it.
Well, if you're always drunk, like life is great in your mind. You know what I mean? Not in reality, but I suppose
I have never in my life. Yeah. I've never in my life seen anyone more drunk, like ever. It was belligerent to the next level of just so uncomfortable to be around. Yeah.
Yeah. No, when you get people who are just like shit-faced all the time and they're in your face and they're getting too close and, you know, they've got bad breath and stuff, I'm just like, no, I don't mind if I've got a friend like that and it's once a month and I deal with it. But like when you get people who are like that all the time, like it's a serious problem. Okay, so this crossing that you're doing over to French Polynesia, what boat is this on?
I haven't announced it yet, so I'm not going to say just yet, but
it's one hull or two hulls?
Mono hull.
One hull. Big or small?
Like 50 something feet.
Oh, comfy. Okay.
Yeah. Should be good. They've done it before,
nice.
So they know what they're doing.
Cool.
And so basically after that crossing, I was like, oh, I can't do this. I didn't want to do it again. For a while until I had my own boat, I was my own captain. I was like, or if it was with a crew that I really, really trusted. But long crossings are a little harder for me because I'm like, I really like to run around and be on land sometimes, you know, but I'll always do it. It's just, I prefer like 6 days and then you're on land but that's just kind of how it just felt during the crossing of the Atlantic crossing. It's nice to be at sea, but it's not something I want to. I'm not like Ellen MacArthur where I'm like crying after 200. I don't want to go back to land. Like I'm like, no, I'll go back to land. So I thought it's got to be like the greatest offer. And as soon as they emailed me and they were like, we would like you to be crew if you're available for the Pacific crossing, I was like, oh hell yeah, because we're friends already. I love them. I trust them. And so it's like, I know that it's going to be an incredible experience, especially with like the safety that they have and everything. So it's just going to be great.
Yeah, that's really cool. You know, and the thing is as well, with it being a 50 something foot boat, like an early 50-foot boat, you're going to be very comfortable on that. Like you can spend a lot more time on a boat of that size. 30 something, 5-6 days is quite comfortable. It's a nice window because it's like you can occupy yourself for 5 days with different activities, like especially if you catch some fish and you have some board games, it's all right. But when you're crossing the Atlantic, it's okay doing the northern route, but the southern route where it's just trade winds, like it is boring. It is so boring. You don't do sail changes for days. Yeah. Like you look and you're like, oh, the wind's changing in 4 days. Maybe we'll tack. Like, oh my God, what? I haven't enjoyed it. No, I much prefer like a nice upwind sail for a few days.
Yeah, no, same for sure. Because it's fun. You're really sailing. You're not just like set the sails and go. Because then, like you said, it's boring. You're just laying around, getting fat because all you want to do is eat. You're just like eating. You can't work out.
So true.
People are like, how do you have enough food? I'm like, you have way too much, actually. People are always asking how you have enough food. I'm like, cookies. Get the food away. Oh my God. The biscuits. Every boat I've been on has, every boat, every crew I've been with has always said that I have a biscuit problem when we're sailing. I'm like, then don't fucking bring biscuits because I don't know why I want to eat like half a pack a day. It's just awful.
Especially if you're sailing with British people. To be honest, I'm like, oh no, I shouldn't have them. I always just go and buy them for myself anyway. The most weight I've put on in the shortest amount of time is when I sailed to the Canaries. I think we did the sail and then we were hanging out on anchor. It was about 2 weeks, and I put on like 8 pounds in 2 weeks, which is a record for me. And that is including like big holidays, like when I was younger. So yeah. And that was just biscuits. It was literally just, and they were sugar free, but I was still consuming a lot of calories. So listen, let's tell people where they can find you. What are your handles for your social media accounts?
Everything is just Hana Sailing. Yeah, that's it. Hana Sailing. And then if you are, I'm going to come up with some long form content, some YouTube videos very soon. I'm working on. Very nice. If you subscribe to my YouTube, that would be really sick, because I think that it'll just give a more in-depth kind of review of who I am, what I'm doing, about my journey, a little more personal. Whereas, the short form content, it's hard to get that whole message across, which is something I struggle with it. So yeah, YouTube, I would like to kind of connect more with people in that way. So yeah, Hana Sailing.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, you just did a super long form content right now. The podcasting is the longest form content you can get.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, listen, mate, it was great to talk to you. And, I just hope you carry on doing what you're doing and you're successful at it. You're motivating people. You're having a great time. You're living your #best life. And it just seems like it's going really well. So yeah, good on you.
Thanks.
Best of luck.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Good luck with your refit and everything that you're going to be doing as well with